Hello, everyone. Today, I'd like to give you a brief introduction to Chinese philology. Chinese philology mainly includes graphic study, phonology, lexicology, grammar, and also the application of the related knowledge in reading ancient classics. As such, we can understand ancient classics more effectively. Reading ancient classics requires not only the ability to look up dictionaries and read ancient annotations, which only tell you what it is. In addition, we should further know why it is. Only in this way can we have the ability to further study traditional Chinese culture. We hope that the study of Chinese philology helps students to cultivate their interest in the Chinese language and characters, and discover the fun of learning them. For this, we will introduce some interesting stories about the study of the ancient Chinese language. In this presentation, we will introduce the invention of the Chinese writing system, changes in the graphic forms, unique features of the Chinese script, and the rules guiding the evolution of pronunciation. Explore how the Chinese script and historical phonology connect us to ancient culture. Then, I will give you an introduction of the Chinese writing system. Chinese characters have experienced thousands of years of development and evolution, starting from the simple scripts on oracle bones to Jingwen, bronze script, and evolved to Zhuanshu. About 5,000 years ago, there was a sage called Chang Jie. According to ancient records, Chang Jie looked up to the sky and observed the stars and their patterns. He looked down at the topography of the ground and saw the traces of the feet of birds and beasts, and realized that their diverse patterns could be distinguished. He looked at the human's body and other things in nature. He grasped the features and extracted the essential meaning from the signs of nature. And then the initial form of writing was created. We have the first Chinese character dictionary compiled in 100 CE. It is a dictionary that collects about 9,000 characters, which are categorized under 540 radicals. Now, we will invite Ms. Xu Shusi to introduce some knowledge. You will learn about the Chinese characters. Ms. Shusi, please.
Thank you very much, Professor Zhu, for the general introduction. Some friends might find it difficult to learn Chinese characters as they have too many strokes to remember. However, English only has 26 letters without so many strokes, and that seems much easier in Chinese. In fact, Chinese characters are not as difficult as we think. Chinese is an isolating language which has no inflection. In terms of inflectional language such as English, each English word has variant forms such as past tense, future tense, objective case, possessive case, single form, plural form, and so on and so forth. In addition, languages like French, German, and Spanish even have feminine and masculine forms. The spellings changes according to all these different cases. On the contrary, Chinese words do not involve so many differentiations. With such insight, we will find that learning Chinese characters is not difficult. After mastering the principles of character formation, we are able to gather meanings easily. As we open the door to Chinese writing, we will find a wonderful world. Chinese characters were derived from our day-to-day experiences. When we look up to the heavens or look down to the earth with careful observation, we will find that Chinese characters can be seen everywhere in nature and in our daily life. They are wonderful, inspirational, and lively. Every character encapsulates its own spirit and vitality. As you truly get to know and understand them, you will greatly love those symbols of wisdom. According to ancient records, Cao Jie was the scribe for the Yellow Emperor who lived around 5,000 years ago. Observing the footprints of birds and animals, Cao Jie realized that the patterns and forms were distinguishable and started to formulate Chinese characters. The forms of characters were derived from objects commonly seen and accessible to the user. Imagine, in the snowy winter, animals leave their own distinct footprints on the snow, like the tracks of a tiger, a deer, or a bird. The paw print of a puppy looks like a plum blossom, whereas the footprint of a small bird resembles a bamboo stalk. Let's have a look at the character Bian. Does it look like the footprint of an animal? The character depicts the claws of an animal and signifies to separate or to distinguish. This explains how characters began to take shape based on the tracks of birds and animals. The basic characters were developed from daily life phenomena. The ancient forms of Chinese characters include the oracle bone script, bronze script, and the small seal script. Oracle bone scripts are inscriptions on turtle shells and animal bones from the Shang dynasty around 1250 BCE, which remain the earliest evidence of systematic characters to date. Oracle bone scripts were used for divination purposes. Inquirers would engrave their questions on an ox scapula or tortoise shells, which were then handed to a diviner. The diviner would heat up the bone until it cracked and interpret an answer depending on where the fissures grew. The graphic form of the character for divine, 补, depicts the shape of the fissures, The ancient pronunciation of the character bu, which is bo, also mimics the sound of the shell cracking. Through the character bu, we can see that both the graphic form and pronunciation of Chinese characters convey meaning. Next, there were inscriptions on bronze bells and vessels, which were mainly used in the Zhou dynasty. Oracle bones and bronze scripts were already quite advanced and functional for their time. Then comes the small seal script, was subsequently developed in the Qin dynasty and marks the divide between ancient and modern forms. The small seal script was much more uniform in size and style. These characters were typically carved onto stone or jade to create imperial seals. It was commissioned by the first emperor of a unified China, Qin Shi Huang, after he defeated the other warring states. Seal script was very beautiful, but it wasn't very convenient when it came to producing official documents quickly. This is where the first modern version of Chinese characters began to develop, beginning with clerical script. Clerical script was a much more simplified version of the seal script, replacing curves and the circles with straight lines and squares. Clerical script would later evolve into the regular Chinese script we know today, without many changes other than the simplification of strokes. Nowadays, there are two versions of modern Chinese characters: traditional characters and simplified characters. Simplified characters were created in the 1950s and 60s to increase literacy. Much of the meaning and artistry behind each character was stripped away during the simplification process. Take the character for listen, Ting, as an example. The traditional version has the characters for ear and heart, meaning to perceive by heart through listening. The simplified version was completely modified from the original. The character on the left is mouth, 口. The character on the right is 斤, a unit of measurement for weight. No connection can be made between the graphic form and the actual meaning of the character. An important book to be mentioned in Chinese philology is 说文解字, which is the earliest comprehensive Chinese character dictionary, compiled around 100 CE. It was authored by Xu Shen, a great Confucian scholar from the Eastern Han Dynasty. 说文解字 provides a comprehensive analysis of the ancient forms, sounds, and meanings of Chinese characters based on the 6 principles of character construction, 六书. It collects 9,353 characters, which are categorized under 540 radicals. Xu Shen used quotations from the ancient classics to explain the characters. Thus, 说文 is considered to be the representation of the wisdom of ancient sages and the treasure of traditional Chinese culture. The title 说文解字 literally means explaining 文, which is the simple character, and analyzing 字, which is the compound character. Next, let me interpret the concept of 文字, character. In ancient times, the two characters that form the term 文字 had distinct meanings. The character 文 resembles intersecting brushstrokes. Doesn't the ancient script look like the patterns produced through crisscross lines? Patterns are produced through interweaving strokes, where characters are also formed by crossing strokes. Therefore, in ancient times, wen meaning character and wen meaning pattern were written in the same form. Wen is the protoform of wen which has the radical silk attached. Wen refers to simple characters which are indivisible. Combining simple characters wen creates compound characters 字. The character 字 is made of two simple characters. Its top part is 棉, which resembles the outline of a house. Its bottom part is 子, which resembles a child. When combined, 字 depicts a child under a roof. When the child grows up, he also has his own children and then grandchildren, thus propagating generation after generation. Thereby, 字 originally means to propagate. A compound character is a combination of two or more simple characters. 字 itself is a phonetic compound. Its upper part, 棉, is the significant symbol which is related to the meaning. Its lower part, 子, is the phonetic symbol which denotes the pronunciation and simultaneously associates with the meaning. Characters serve as a media for recording and transmitting the ideas contained in the ancient classics. Through Chinese characters, we can learn from the experience and wisdom recorded in the ancient texts over the past 5,000 years. This is due to the feature of this distinctive writing system. One of the unique features of Chinese characters is that they are ideographic, unlike alphabetic languages which are phonological. In terms of geographical changes, alphabetic languages vary with the change of dialects. Due to geographical separation, differences in the spoken language developed. Chinese characters can be understood through both the eyes and ears. Although there are differences in Chinese dialects, when they are written on paper, you will find no regional differences. The written words won't vary with the change of dialects. Therefore, there's no obstacle to communication. For example, the spoken dialects between Shandong province in northern China and Guangdong province in southern China are quite different from each other. However, the written form is the same with few regional variations. That's because Chinese characters are visual symbols that mark their meaning with form. Thereby, the written words won't vary with the change of dialects. In terms of changes through time, alphabetical languages are symbols of phonemes. They mark their pronunciations with letters. Languages change with time, and alphabetical languages change as their spoken form changes. The pronunciation of words changes noticeably after about 200 years. When the sound changes, the spelling changes as well. This might hinder the transmission of cultural traditions. For example, Old English in the age of Beowulf is much different from present-day English and cannot be understood by modern English speakers, as the pronunciations and the spellings have changed a lot. Shakespearean English of the 16th century used many words which are not used today. However, the case is a bit different in terms of Chinese. As for the same Chinese character, people in the Tang Dynasty read it in Tang pronunciation. People in the Song Dynasty read it in Song pronunciation. People in modern times read it in the present pronunciation. Nevertheless, the written forms of Chinese characters generally remain the same, be it in the Tang Dynasty or the Song Dynasty or modern times. Today, we can still appreciate the beauty of Tang poetry. Even the children in primary school nowadays are familiar with the poem 静夜思, Thoughts on a Tranquil Night, written by Li Bai, a poet from the Tang Dynasty, which goes 床前明月光，疑是地上霜。举头望明月，低头思故乡。Before my bed, a pool of light. Can it be hoarfrost on the ground? Looking up, I find the moon bright. Bowing in homesickness, I'm drowned. Chinese characters have enabled long-established Chinese cultural traditions of thousands of years to be handed down to the present day. They serve as a crucial medium to reach back into the past and enable us to learn from the wisdom embedded in ancient classics. The prerequisites for foundational study of Chinese culture start with the study of its characters. The ancient Chinese invented characters in a scientific way with smart wisdom. With a willingness to learn and a proper method of study, anyone can master them. This is a brief introduction to Chinese characters. Next, let's welcome Professor Zhu to continue to introduce the study of ancient Chinese phonology and some interesting stories about the phonetic evolution of the Chinese language. Professor Zhu, please. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Su Si. The next part, I will give you an introduction of ancient Chinese phonology. Historical Chinese phonology deals with the reconstruction of songs of ancient Chinese. As Chinese is written in logographic characters, not alphabetical letters or syllabary, the methods employed in historical Chinese phonology differ considerably from those employed in, for example, Indo-European languages. The phonetic reconstruction of ancient Chinese songs is a little bit complicated because, unlike Indo-European languages, no phonetic spellings are used. However, you will find a lot of fun in the process of research and learning. Chinese has been documented over a long period of time, with the earliest Oracle bones writing dating back to 1250 BCE. Ancient Chinese is written mostly in logographic characters, which do not directly specify the phonology of the language. Thus, the reconstruction depends to a large extent on ancillary sources that more directly record the phonology of the language. Based on these sources, historical Chinese is generally divided into the following periods. The Old Chinese period is from approximately 1250 BCE to 25 CE. The reconstruction of Old Chinese is based on the phonetic components of Chinese characters and the rhymes of early poetry, such as Shi Jing, the Book of Poetry, which is assumed to represent the language of 1000 to 700 BCE. And then the Middle Chinese period is from around the 5th century CE to the 12th century, including in the Northern and Southern dynasty, Sui, Tang, and Song dynasties. The reconstruction of Middle Chinese is usually based on the concrete phonetic material, which is the Qieyun Rhyme Dictionary, later expanded into Guangyun. Qieyun describes a compromise between the northern and southern varieties. The rhyme dictionaries are essential to reading and writing rhyming poetry. And in the next period is the modern varieties. Modern varieties refer to the phonology from around the 13th century CE, beginning from the Yuan dynasty in which early Mandarin developed to the present time. Most modern varieties appear to have split off from Middle Chinese around 1000 CE. The next part, I will talk about the language contact. The cross-cultural interaction in different languages has promoted each nation's linguistic concepts and research methods. During the long process of history, the Chinese language is not exceptional. The study of Chinese phonology has been influenced by other cultures and yet continued to play an important role in the cross-cultural exchange between civilizations in world history. This is represented mainly in two aspects. First, the influence of ancient Sino-Indian on historic Chinese phonology, the translation of the Buddhist scriptures, and the cross-cultural exchange between China and India have benefited the analytical skills in Chinese phonology. Phonology has become a fundamental study in reading ancient Chinese classics and inheritance of ancient culture. Second, Chinese phonology was greatly inspired by Western languages of the 19th century. Chinese scholars have absorbed new linguistic concepts and methods. They have gained more understanding of the commonality of language, which contributed to the study and the reconstruction of the consonants in archaic Chinese. Phonological knowledge can also be applied to teaching Chinese as a foreign language. We can apply the basic rules of Chinese phonology in teaching Chinese as a second language. Through the understanding and application of Chinese phonology, we are able to trace the origin of words and understand why this is so expressed. The application of Chinese phonology in Chinese language teaching is a useful and valuable technique. Okay, next part. Let's talk about some interesting stories about the ancient Chinese phonology. The first story will be the word father, 爸爸. The Chinese appellation of father and the formation of 爸爸. Have you heard that Confucius did not know the character 爸, father? Then, how did Confucius call dad? Nowadays, Chinese kids call their father 爸, but you can't find this character in the book 说文解字, an ancient dictionary written by the Han scholar Xu Sheng. The Chinese character 爸 appeared after 3rd century CE. Then, how did the Chinese people call their fathers in Confucius times? Old Chinese from 600 to 200 BCE. Now, let's see the reason why there was no word 爸 in Confucius times and how the kids called their father during that period. Let's have a look at some rules of the evolution of Chinese phonology. In ancient Chinese, the character 父 was used for father. Why father was called 父 instead of 爸? Why father was not called as papa in ancient Chinese like in other civilizations in the world today? The answers can be revealed in the history of phonology. Qian Daxing, a Chinese scholar from the Qing dynasty, had a great discovery in the evolution of pronunciation over a long period of time. He believed that the current consonant F was pronounced as P in ancient times. With the application of this theory, the initial consonant of the character 父, F, was originated from the Old Chinese P. Another rule in the evolution of Chinese phonology is that today's vowel U is originally pronounced as A. The character 父, Fu, in Old Chinese should pronounce as 爸. When these two rules are applied in the pronunciation of 父, therefore, we can understand that in ancient China, children also call their father papa, just as in all the other languages in the world. After the 3rd century, a new character, 爸, was created with a phonetic symbol, 爸, added below the character 父. Since the pronunciation of the character 父 changed from 爸 to 父, it is no longer suitable for recording the appellation of father, 爸. Therefore, although Confucius did not know the character 爸, he still called his father 爸爸. which was written as fu in Confucius' time. Let's continue to talk about the story of the word tea. Another story about the ancient knowledge is the evolution of the word tea, cha. Do you think that Confucius also drank tea just like us? For centuries, tea has been the most popular drink for every Chinese household. People believe that tea is beneficial for health. Tea is considered one of the necessities in their daily life. Let's have a look at the evolution of the Chinese character of tea. What kind of tea did Confucius drink? It was tu. There are two cognate words for tea in Chinese, cha and tu, dating back to over 1,000 years ago. Chinese ancestors found a kind of herbal plant which tastes bitter and cool. They called it tu. They fermented the leaves of tu and made a mellow and relaxing drink. They continued improving their skills in fermentation and finally produced a new kind of drink, cha. Later, many kinds of fine tea were produced. They wrote the fine tea as cha, which is slightly different from tu. This is the story of the word cha, tea. Later, tea ceremony and the tea culture developed in the Tang Dynasty. The tea culture gradually spread from China to the whole world up to the present time. The words for tea in all languages originated from Chinese. In Korean, the tea in the word tea house, da bang, is pronounced as da. Tea is pronounced as de in both the Ming dialect of China, spoken in Taiwan and the Fujian province, and French, de. In English, tea is pronounced as tea. It is a foreign word which evolved from the cognate words cha and tu in ancient Chinese. Through this example, we can see that the low vowel R gradually shifts into the high vowel E. This sound shift in Chinese coincided with the change of the vowels in English. We call it the great vowel shift. This change is considered as a universal rule in linguistics. How did the pronunciation of cha change from da to de and eventually to ti? Firstly, the words tu and cha in Mandarin originate from the same pronounced da. Secondly, in modern Chinese, the word cha keeps the word tu retains the original initial T. This represents the cognate relationship. Teaching the Chinese language could be easy and effective if we combine the knowledge of Chinese phonology and the rules of phonetic change with the written and spoken Chinese in modern times. Once the distinctive characteristics of Chinese words and their pronunciations are identified through the study of Chinese phonology, the same rule is applicable to others. This knowledge would make Chinese teaching more efficient. The above is an overview of Chinese philology. I hope you enjoy it. Thanks for listening. Thank you very much.